What if the sister everyone ignored turned out to be the most successful one? For years, Samantha Mitchell stayed quiet. She let her younger sister shine. But at one family dinner, everything changed. The truth came out and it left everyone speechless. If you've ever been underestimated by someone close to you, keep watching. This story is for you. My name is Samantha Mitchell. I'm 34 years old and I've spent most of my life feeling like the invisible sister. I grew up in a quiet suburb just outside Boston, Massachusetts. My younger sister Celia, who's 3 years younger than me, always seemed to grab the spotlight without even trying. She was loud, charming, and beautiful. Everything that made people notice her right away. Me, I was the quiet one, the thoughtful one. I didn't speak up unless I had something important to say. I didn't dance, cheer, or post my life on Instagram. I read business magazines while other kids watched cartoons. I dreamed of building my own company. I planned budgets for fun. While Celia was practicing for cheer competitions, I was researching product trends and selling collectible toys online. But no one cared about those things. Not in my family. Why can't you be more like Celia? My mom would ask. Samantha, you should try to be more outgoing, Dad added. It was like my strengths didn't matter because they didn't sparkle on the surface. At school, it was the same story. Celia was student body president, debate team captain, and later prom queen. Meanwhile, I got a part-time job at a local accounting firm. I learned about taxes and spreadsheets. I made real-world connections. But while Celia was winning trophies, I was being told to smile more. By the time Celia got accepted into Cornell University, my parents were over the moon. They framed her acceptance letter. It hung in the living room, surrounded by her awards and photos. I still remember the day she got in. Mom cried and Dad popped champagne. And me? I was told, we'll figure something out for your education too, honey. Maybe community college, then transfer. I didn't cry. I didn't complain. I understood we didn't have unlimited money. I made a plan. I earned a partial scholarship to a state university. I worked 20 hours a week at the campus business office to cover the rest. While Celia posted beach photos from Cancun, I was networking with professors who knew CEOs. Still, my efforts were invisible. When I graduated, I got one blurry Facebook post from Mom. So proud of both our girls. The photo cut off half my face. That was it. Meanwhile, Celia had an entire album titled Celia's College Adventure. Hundreds of pictures, captions, likes, and glowing comments. After college, things didn't change. Celia got a high-paying marketing job in New York City. She said she worked hard for it, but I later learned it came from one of Dad's golfing buddies. She moved into a fancy apartment in Manhattan. Our parents helped with the rent. Her Instagram looked like a magazine cover. Rooftop brunches, cocktail parties, spa weekends, and designer handbags. Closed another major account today. She'd post clinking glasses with friends, always in perfect lighting. I moved into a small apartment in Boston with a roommate. I worked at a small financial services firm. No one knew what I did. No one asked. When I got a promotion, I mentioned it at Thanksgiving. Mom smiled and said, "That's nice, dear," then turned to Celia to ask about her new coat. Year after year, this was my life. Celia was the star. I was the background. I started to believe it. Maybe I wasn't meant to be special. But what no one knew was what I was building. Late nights, I worked on my own side business. Financial consulting for small businesses and independent entrepreneurs. I built it in silence. No fancy posts. No praise. I let Celia have the spotlight. I didn't need it. By 32, I had enough clients to quit my job and run my business full-time. At 33, I cleared 6 figures. I helped over 200 clients grow their own businesses. Some even ended up on magazine covers. Just not me. I didn't tell my family. Why? Because I knew they wouldn't care. They wouldn't understand. To them, success looked like Instagram posts and company names they recognized. But then came the dinner. The one that changed everything. It was a Sunday evening in early spring. We were all at my parents' house. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, wine glasses clinking. Celia showed up late, as always, in a sleek black dress and heels. She walked in like she owned the place. "Sorry I'm late," she said, air-kissing Mom and tossing her designer purse on the couch. "Had to meet with a potential investor. You know how it is." I smiled politely and took a sip of water. I wasn't in the mood. As usual, she dominated the conversation. "I'm thinking of launching my own brand," she announced, twirling her fork. "It'll be a lifestyle brand. Think candles, skincare, journals. I'll hire a consultant, of course. A business consultant." Dad asked, "You'll need someone good." And just like that, the moment came. "Oh, I already have someone in mind," Celia said. "I've been following this woman on TikTok. She's amazing. Does full financial planning and everything." Then Mom asked, "Samantha, you work in finance, right? What exactly do you do again?" I paused. This was the first time in years they had asked me directly. It felt like the room got quiet. Even Celia looked at me, a little annoyed. I took a breath. "I run my own financial consulting business," I said calmly. "I've had over 200 clients. Some have grown from side hustles to million-dollar companies. I don't advertise because I don't need to. My referral rate is over 90%. The room was still. Then I added, "Actually, I helped one of your TikTok girls' clients last year. She came to me when her books were a mess." Celia's mouth opened slightly, then closed. Dad blinked. Mom said, "Wait, you have your own business?" "Yes," I said. "For 3 years now. And last year I made more than Celia's old firm paid her senior partners." That part, I hadn't meant to say out loud, but it felt good. Celia looked stunned. Not angry, just confused. Like the world had flipped upside down. She'd spent years thinking I was behind her. Quiet, boring Samantha. But in reality, I'd passed her long ago. I just didn't tell anyone. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't loud. It's quiet, it's calm, and it shows up when no one expects it. The room stayed quiet for a long moment after I spoke. I think they were all trying to figure out if I was joking. Celia blinked at me like she didn't understand the words I'd just said. "You have your own business?" Mom repeated, like it didn't make sense. I nodded and took another bite of mashed potatoes. "Yes, I started it 3 years ago." Quietly, Celia let out a soft laugh. "Since when? You never said anything." I looked at her. "You never asked." That was the truth. Nobody asked me about my work. Nobody ever seemed interested. So I stopped offering updates. I stopped trying to get their attention. Celia stared at me like she didn't recognize me. "So, what exactly do you do?" "I offer financial consulting," I explained. "I help small businesses organize their money, reduce costs, increase profits, and scale. I've helped restaurants, online stores, local service providers, even some influencers." "Influencers?" she repeated, clearly surprised. "Yep," I said. "One of them had over 1 million followers but didn't know how to manage her income. She was spending too much on branding and not saving for taxes. I helped her get on track." Mom was still processing. Dad too. He looked thoughtful and said, "That's impressive, Samantha." It was the first time I'd heard him say something like that in years. I nodded but didn't smile. I wasn't doing this for praise. I wasn't trying to win. I just wanted them to see me, really see me for once. Celia forced a smile. "Well, that's great, Sam. Good for you." Her voice was sweet, but I could tell she didn't like it. For the first time, she wasn't the center of attention. She didn't know how to handle it. After dinner, I helped Mom with the dishes, while Celia scrolled on her phone. Dad stepped outside to take a call. The silence between me and Mom was strange. She glanced at me now and then, like she wanted to say something but didn't know how. Finally, she spoke. "Why didn't you tell us all this sooner?" she asked softly. I shrugged. "I didn't think it mattered to you." She looked at me. "Of course it matters. You're our daughter." That made me pause. I wanted to believe her, but years of being ignored, overlooked, and brushed aside didn't go away with one sentence. I didn't argue. I just nodded and kept rinsing plates. Later that night, Celia pulled me aside before she left. "So, your business is real," she said, crossing her arms. "You really make that much?" "Yes, and you never posted about it." "No social media?" "Nope, my clients come from referrals and business networks. I don't need to post." She looked confused. "But, why keep it so quiet?" "Because I didn't need anyone's approval," I said. "I just needed results." Celia didn't say anything. She just nodded slowly and left. The next few days were different. Mom called me twice that week, just to talk. That never used to happen. Dad sent me an article about small business growth, and asked what I thought about it. And Celia, she didn't post anything for 3 whole days. That alone was shocking. But I didn't let any of it get to my head. I still woke up at 6 a.m., did my morning routine and checked in with my clients. I still handled reports, meetings, and spreadsheets. I had work to do. Their attention didn't change who I was. I wasn't doing this to prove anything. I was doing it because I loved it. Still, something strange began to happen. I started getting messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Cousins, old classmates, even one of Celia's friends. "Hey, I heard you help businesses grow. Can we talk?" "Samantha, I'm starting a small business and need some financial advice. Can we meet?" Word was spreading. Apparently, after the dinner, Celia had told a few people about what I said. She even mentioned me during a conversation with one of her coworkers, who ended up becoming a client. It was ironic. For years, Celia had tried to shine brighter by ignoring me. Now she was helping build my reputation just by telling the truth. One weekend, I got a text from Celia. "Celia, hey, would you be open to looking over my budget? I'm serious about starting my lifestyle brand and want to do it right." I stared at the message for a while, not because I was surprised she asked, but because I wasn't sure how to answer. This was the same sister who once laughed at me for using coupons. The same sister who said, "What's the point of doing anything if no one knows about it?" Now she was asking for help. After a few minutes, I replied, "Me, sure, let's set up a meeting." We met the next afternoon at a quiet cafe near my apartment. Celia showed up in her usual designer outfit, but looked more nervous than usual. She pulled out her iPad and showed me her idea for a luxury wellness brand. Candles, skincare, journals, and retreats. The concept was beautiful, but the numbers were a mess. "No pricing plan?" I asked gently. "Not yet," she admitted. "No breakdown of startup costs?" She shook her head. "I thought I'd figure that out later." I nodded slowly. "Celia, this could work, but not like this. You need a real business plan, a product roadmap, and a budget. You can't rely on pretty branding alone." She looked embarrassed. "I know, that's why I asked you." I studied her face. For the first time, she looked real, not the polished version on Instagram, just a woman trying to start something and feeling overwhelmed. So I helped her. We spent 2 hours breaking everything down.
I walked her through profit margins, vendor research, customer targeting, and launch strategies. She took notes. She asked questions. She listened. By the end of the meeting, she smiled. Not the confident, flashy smile I was used to, but a quiet one. "You're really good at this," she said. "Thanks," I replied. "No, I mean it," she said. "I've always thought you were just doing your own thing, but I didn't realize how far ahead you actually were." I smiled too, not because I needed her approval, but because I saw something shift in her. For the first time, she respected me, and maybe that was the beginning of something new between us. A week after our cafe meeting, Celia sent me a follow-up email. It had her new budget, a product list, and even a timeline for launching her brand. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start, and more effort than I'd ever seen from her before. She ended the email with, "Let me know what I can improve. I trust your opinion." I sat back in my chair reading it twice. For most of my life, I'd been the one looking up to her, even when I didn't want to. But now she was looking to me. It was strange, but also kind of healing. That weekend she invited me to a networking brunch in New York. Normally I would have said no. I hated big social events full of fake smiles and small talk, but something inside me said I should go. Not for her. For me. To see what it felt like to be on her turf, and still stand tall. I took the train into the city early Saturday morning. Celia picked me up at the station, wearing sunglasses and holding 2 iced coffees. "For the queen of spreadsheets," she said with a grin, handing one to me. "Thanks," I said, surprised. "You remembered how I like it." "Of course. Almond milk, no sugar. I listen sometimes," she joked. The brunch was held on the rooftop of a boutique hotel in Soho. It was exactly what I imagined. Bright umbrellas, pastel dresses, and conversations full of buzzwords like pivot, launch strategy, and brand alignment. Celia moved through the crowd like she always did, all smiles and perfect posture, but this time she introduced me to everyone. "This is my sister Samantha. She's a financial consultant. Super smart, super successful. She's the reason I even know what a gross margin is." People smiled politely at first, but when they started asking questions and I answered clearly, confidently, they leaned in. One woman handed me her card. Another asked if I offered workshops. By the end of the brunch, I had 3 new potential clients. After we left, Celia looked over at me and said, "You were the smartest person in that room. I hope you know that." I looked at her carefully. "Is this the same sister who once said I was boring?" She laughed. "Yeah, I was kind of a brat back then." I didn't argue, I just smiled. When I got home that night, I found a new message waiting for me. It was from my mom. "I talked to your aunt today. She said you're working with one of her clients now. I had no idea your business had grown so much. I'm proud of you, sweetheart." I sat still for a moment, staring at her words. "Proud of you." It wasn't a big moment. No parade. No Instagram post. Just one sentence that I'd waited over 20 years to hear. I didn't cry. I didn't even smile at first. I just felt calm, because I didn't need her words to feel whole anymore. But hearing them, that was a bonus. Over the next month, things kept shifting. Celia kept sending me updates on her brand development, packaging samples, website mock-ups, influencer lists. To her credit, she was taking it seriously. We even had weekly Zoom calls where I helped her fine-tune her business plan. Meanwhile, my own company was busier than ever. Referrals were rolling in, and I'd hired a part-time assistant to help with scheduling and client research. One morning, I was walking into my office, a shared co-working space in downtown Boston, when I got a call from my dad. He rarely called me, usually just for birthdays or holiday plans. But this time, he got straight to the point. "Hey Sam, quick question. Your mom and I are thinking about getting serious with our retirement fund. We've been talking to this advisor, but we realized, why aren't we talking to you?" I nearly dropped my coffee. "You want me to look at your finances?" I asked. "Yeah," he said. "You clearly know what you're doing. I don't know why we didn't ask sooner." I wanted to say because you never believed in me, but I didn't. Instead, I said, "Sure, Dad. Let's set up a meeting." That weekend, Celia came to visit me in Boston for the first time in years. She'd always said it was too cold or too boring, but now she wanted to see my world. She stayed at my apartment, complimented my cozy space, and even helped cook dinner. We sat on the couch afterward, each with a glass of wine, watching a documentary on women entrepreneurs. Halfway through, she turned to me. "Do you think I was jealous of you?" The question surprised me. "What makes you ask that?" "I don't know," she said. "Maybe because you always had your own path. You didn't need attention. You didn't need approval. You just worked." And I think deep down I knew that took more strength than I had. I didn't know what to say, so I said what felt true. We were both just trying to be seen. We just went about it differently. She nodded. I always thought being seen meant being loud, but now I think it means being real. We clinked glasses. Not as rivals, not as jealous sisters, just 2 women finally understanding each other.
A few days later, Celia launched her brand's website. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers, and it was built the right way this time. She sent me a package with some of her first products, a lavender candle, a journal, and a card that read, "Thank you for helping me build this the smart way. Love, your little sister, the one who finally gets it." I placed the candle on my bookshelf right next to my 5-year goals. It felt like a small victory, not because I changed her, but because I hadn't changed myself to win her approval. I stayed steady, I stayed true. And in the end, that made all the difference. A few weeks later, I got a group text from mom. Family dinner at our place next Sunday. Everyone's invited. We have something special to celebrate. Celia replied almost instantly. Ooh, sounds fancy. Can I bring dessert? My stomach tightened as I read the message. It had been years since a family dinner felt like anything other than a performance. Celia would arrive with stories. Mom and Dad would ask her 100 questions. I'd sit quietly, smiling, waiting for the night to end. But this time felt different. Celia had changed, and so had I. The night of the dinner, I drove to my parents' house with a bottle of wine and a quiet sense of calm. Not excitement, not nerves, just calm. Celia pulled up right after me. Wearing a simple dress and holding a pie she said she'd baked herself. That's a first, I teased. I watched like 3 YouTube videos, she admitted. It might still be raw inside. We both laughed. Inside, the table was already set. Candles flickered and a roast was warming in the oven. Dad gave us both hugs. Even Mom seemed more relaxed than usual. When we sat down to eat, the usual small talk started. How's work? Any new travel plans? But then Dad cleared his throat. We just wanted to say we're really proud of both our girls, he said. And we have a little announcement. He reached into a drawer and pulled out a framed photo. It was a picture of me, standing in front of my new office building. I blinked. Mom added, we had it printed for your dad's office. We thought it was time to celebrate your milestones too. Celia reached over and nudged my arm. About time, right? I smiled, still trying to process it all. For so long, I had trained myself to expect the bare minimum from them. So this moment of recognition felt strange, but not unwelcome. After dinner, we sat around the table drinking coffee. That's when Celia said it. I want to tell you all something. We turned to her. She took a deep breath. I wouldn't have launched my business without Samantha. She helped me with the budget, the pricing, the marketing plan, everything. I just wanted you all to know that. There was a long pause. Mom looked surprised. Dad raised his eyebrows. She did? Mom asked. You never mentioned that. Celia nodded. I know, I should have. I just didn't realize how much I didn't understand until she helped me. Then she turned to me. And honestly, I used to be a bit of a jerk to you. I acted like my path was the only path worth celebrating. I'm sorry, Sam. The room was quiet. I looked at her, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't see a rival. I saw my sister. It's okay, I said. We both had a lot to learn. Later that evening, while we were helping Mom clear the dishes, she pulled me aside in the kitchen. I'm sorry too, she said quietly. I think I got caught up in the shiny stuff. You were always so independent. I didn't realize how much I overlooked. I wanted to cry, not because I needed her apology, but because it was the first time she truly saw me. I know, Mom, I said. It's okay, I'm not angry anymore. She touched my face, the way she used to when I was little. You've become an incredible woman, Samantha. I'm proud of you. That night after I got home, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine. The city was quiet. My phone buzzed with a message from Celia. You still up? I'm thinking of adding a financial tips section to my brand page. Want to co-write it? I laughed. The little sister who once mocked me for reading Forbes was now asking to collaborate. I typed back, sure, but only if I get 50% of the spotlight. She replied instantly, deal, but only because you're the smart one. Over the next month, we did just that. We launched a blog together, Money Made Simple. Celia handled the graphics and tone. I handled the numbers and advice. It was the perfect mix of both our worlds. And slowly, things changed in our family too. Mom called more often, just to check in. Dad asked me for help planning a retirement trip to Italy. At Thanksgiving, my aunt introduced me as the brilliant one behind the scenes. But the biggest change was in me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't shrinking. I wasn't hiding behind polite smiles or short updates. I was showing up fully as myself. And it felt good. A few weeks before Christmas, Celia and I were invited to speak at a small business event for young women. She talked about branding and confidence. I talked about financial clarity and setting smart goals. At the end, we stood side by side while people asked questions. One teenage girl came up to us and said, I want to be just like you two. You're both so different, but it works. Celia smiled and pointed at me. She's the real deal. I just make things look cute. I laughed. She's being modest. Without her sparkle, I'd just be spreadsheets and coffee. The girl smiled and walked away, and I realized we'd finally become something powerful. Not just sisters, but equals. Winter came quietly in Boston. Snow covered the sidewalks like a soft blanket. Coffee shops were filled with people escaping the cold. And for the first time in years, I felt warm without needing a fireplace or a hug I never got growing up. Because something inside me had changed. I had stopped trying to be seen, and instead, I simply started being me. Celia and I continued building our blog together. She taught me how to make my writing more friendly and colorful. I showed her how to break down a budget that even a teenager could follow. We were a team now, real partners. And the funny thing, our audience could feel it. People loved the mix of sparkle and structure, of personality and planning. Within 2 months, we had over 50,000 followers. Then we got invited to do a podcast. Then a small business grant came through. One day, Celia called me in tears. Samantha, she whispered, we just got featured in a Forbes online article. Can you believe it? I smiled. I can, because I'd already seen what we were capable of. We went home for Christmas that year. Same house, same traditions, same tree with the slightly crooked star. But everything felt different.
Mom let me decorate the dessert table, usually Celia's thing. Dad asked me to explain crypto to him over pie. At one point during dinner, my cousin leaned over and said, "So you're the sister with the money blog, right? I heard your tips helped my roommate pay off her credit card." I nodded, surprised. People were listening. They were watching. And not just Celia anymore. Later that night, Celia and I stood in the backyard. Snow was falling slowly. You could hear music playing faintly through the windows. She hugged her coat tighter and looked up at the sky. "You know what I used to think?" she said. "What?" "That if I didn't shine the brightest, I'd disappear." I looked at her face, soft, honest. "You never had to shine that hard, Celia. We were always looking at you." She smiled. "But I never looked at you. Not really. And I'm sorry for all the years I made you feel small." "I let myself feel that way," I said gently. "But I'm done with that now." She nodded. "I hope we never go back to that place." "We won't," I promised. "Because I won't disappear again." New Year's Eve rolled around, and for the first time I didn't make a long list of goals. No vision board. No 10-step plan. Just one quiet promise to myself. Live fully. Show up. Don't shrink. Because I had spent too many years folding myself up to make room for others. Now, I was standing tall, and not because I had to prove something, but because I finally knew deep in my bones that I had always been enough. No spotlight needed. A few days later, I got an email. A woman from a publishing company had read our blog. She wanted to talk about turning it into a book. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Then I sent the email to Celia with one line. "Looks like they see us now." She replied with a heart emoji and a voice note. "Sam, we've always been worth seeing. It just took us a while to see each other. I used to think silence was strength. That shrinking made me safe. That invisibility was just the price I had to pay for peace. But now I know better. Being quiet doesn't mean you don't matter. Being in the background doesn't mean you're not leading something powerful. And sometimes the best revenge isn't being loud. It's being unshakably yourself and letting the world catch up." My name is Samantha Mitchell. I'm 34 years old. And I'm no longer the invisible sister. I'm a woman who built something real for herself, by herself. And now, with the sister who once cast a shadow I no longer fear. Because I've found my own light, and it's never going out again.